Okay, hi guys. I'm happy to see you here at my live stream. My name is Jana. I'm a nurse practitioner here in Gallbladder, Arizona, and I focus on the functional medicine approach. And today I would like to talk about actually gut issues because this topic is so overwhelming, and I have a lot of clients who reach out to me because they are curious if I can help them. Because they've been to several doctors, including GI doctors, got all kinds of testing done, spent so much money on the testing, colonoscopy, endoscopy, you name it, and there was nothing to be found per their testing. So what can we do, and how can we alleviate some of the symptoms that, including me, that I used to experience but not anymore? So I would want to focus on the main symptoms first. A lot of patients talk to me about gas, bloating, especially 1 hour or 2 hours after they ate a meal, nausea-like symptoms, but not like vomiting, but just nausea, just uneasiness, quite like morning sickness all the time. That's not fun. And then some other symptoms include, for some people it's diarrhea, for other people it's constipation. It could be constipation and diarrhea together, and that's not fun either. Basically, if you go to the GI doctor, gastrointestinal doctor, he would say, well, you have IBS. Probably it's stress-induced IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, constipation predominant, or diarrhea, or mixed symptom. Well, I talk a lot with my hands too. I'm not Italian though, but anyway. So IBS is a syndrome, so basically you cannot diagnose it per se. You just go by the method of exclusion, ruling out what you don't have. And when you don't have a lot of other issues like ulcers, gastric ulcers, or stomach ulcers, then you think, or E. coli, or Shigella, or Blastocystis hominis, then you start thinking about what is this syndrome, irritable bowel syndrome, actually mean. And it means it's just a medical wastebasket, but the doctors don't know what it is, and they just made a big name for it, put bunch of syndromes of symptoms under this name and called it syndrome. So this way we also diagnose a lot of diseases that actually are a bunch of symptoms, but they don't have any testing behind them. So what can we do about our GI issues? So it all depends on the cause of the issue. For example, I had a client who has had diarrhea probably his whole life, and he said, well, I thought it was normal. Well, it's not normal to have diarrhea your whole life, because with diarrhea you do not have time to absorb the nutrients in the small intestine into your bloodstream, and you are nutrient deficient. I don't need to run fancy tests to find out that you have magnesium, zinc, and B vitamins deficiency if I know that you have a history of consistent diarrhea 2-3 times a day. So in that case, for example, the solution was very simple. The diarrhea was caused by his inability to absorb fat, and that was caused by the gallbladder dysfunction. The gallbladder was not making enough bile to shoot that bile into the small intestine, and the fats were not emulsified, were not digested, and he couldn't digest them. So when you have too much fat in your gut, it just will make, and you cannot digest it and absorb it, it will just go through your intestines and you will poop it out. And nutrients and vitamins and minerals with it too. So the main causes of the diarrhea, constipation, and such, of all these above mentioned symptoms, the first cause, I would say, the gallbladder dysfunction. And a lot of people have it. They either don't have gallbladder anymore. So many people in in early 20s don't have gallbladder anymore. That's not normal. It shouldn't be a norm. So basically, you want to keep your gallbladder. Try not to get rid of it if you absolutely need to. Try to prevent the gallstones, gallbladder stagnation, improve the bile flow, and there are a lot of things to do so. But basically, if your gallbladder is not functioning properly, it will not shoot the bile into the small intestine when you digest foods. It will not help you digest fats, emulsify fats, and it will also not help you to sterilize, basically disinfect your small intestine, because gallbladder dysfunction is one of the first causes why people develop small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, where it's too much bacteria, doesn't matter, beneficial or harmful bacteria in your small intestine. So that's one cause of gut issues. The other cause could be the low stomach acid, and it's very hard to test for that. I mean, it's possible, and it costs like $500 or $600 at the GI doctor. You can ask for the smart pill test, which Heidelberg's test, which will help to see how stomach acid function and how it fluctuates throughout the day with the consumption of food. But the other simple test, I probably should talk about it a little bit later, but there are two different ways to see if you have a low stomach acid. One of them includes additional stomach acid, betaine hydrochloride, as a supplement, and seeing if you have symptoms of it. And the other way is the baking soda test, and I'm about to start experimenting with baking soda test. The main dang, forgot to turn off my phone. The main thing is not to overdo with baking soda. You have to do only 1/4 of a teaspoon of baking soda every morning for 5 days, and see what symptoms, if you have belching within how many minutes it takes you to have belching with that. But if you are not sure, and if you don't want to try, and of course I wouldn't try it with these things without the supervision of medical professional, you could probably try apple cider vinegar test. Try half a teaspoon and then add to half a tablespoon to 1 tablespoon to half a glass of water 15 to 20 minutes before meals, and see how you do. If you have heartburn after it, maybe you have sufficient hydrochloric acid, stomach acid. But if you feel fine after it, maybe just supplement for a little bit with lemon water. If you cannot tolerate apple cider vinegar, then try lemon water. Half a lemon juiced in the half a glass of lukewarm water. Never use cold water, and see if it helps you. So the third cause would be small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, and that's actually what I had, because I was exposed to so many antibiotics, and my genetics was on the weaker side, so I do have propensity to the small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. And also C-section didn't help, because during C-section your whole thing gets, your gut gets all messed up, and you're exposed to so many antibiotics during this C-section. So these are some triggers that could be causing the small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. But what does it mean? It means just you have too much good or bad bacteria in your small intestine. And what happens with that? Just that bacteria starts stealing your nutrients. Instead of you absorbing those nutrients into your gut lining and then into bloodstream and sending it to the vital organs, you start develop your bacteria just steals them. It could be bacteria or fungus, such as candida, that steals those good nutrients in your small intestine. There are ways to test for it, and we'll talk about that later. But SIBO or SIBO is not the cause. A lot of times it's a symptom. So like I just said, in my case, root cause was frequent prescription of antibiotics, having a C-section, having major abdominal surgery that also predisposes the person to adhesions, that the gut doesn't move properly and doesn't move the gut content properly to evacuate it. Well, there are a lot of other possibles. The low stomach acid also can cause small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. Gallbladder dysfunction can cause it too. So when we have small intestinal bacterial overgrowth and we have lots of bacteria in your gut, in our guts, in the small gut, we develop leaky gut because the bacteria, when it munches on that food that we ingest, it starts releasing toxins, and those toxins start causing gut intestinal higher intestinal gut permeability. So basically it's leaky gut, and we actually want to prevent it, right? So we want to not have small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. So we don't want to have constipation or diarrhea, because the other side of the IBS constipation predominant syndrome is constipation, when you're not evacuating at least once a day, and you accumulate the toxins and you reabsorb the hormones that you should be getting rid of, for example estrogen, and you predispose yourself to estrogen dominance, to breast cancer, to other type of cancers, because if you don't get rid of those toxins, they stay in your body and they get reabsorbed and they wreak havoc in your body too. The other causes of gut dysfunction could be long-term steroids, and immunosuppressive, in the conditions, in autoimmune conditions, when someone is put on immunosuppressive drugs or steroids, that could cause leaky gut. Also antibiotics, but at the same time it could be as simple as taking non-steroidal drugs such as ibuprofen, Motrin, Aleve, or anything long-term. So you take something every day for pain, for joint pain, or for some muscle aches and pains, or back pain is huge, right? And you develop leaky gut, and you develop lots of nutrient deficiencies because of that, and you also develop small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, which causes you to have diarrhea, bloating, nausea, and constipation. So what do we do about it? The main thing is also to replenish with the nutrients, and I have here a kind of cheat sheet where you can look at all the nutrients that how to look at them, that could be great to help with the gastrointestinal health, and it's vitamin A, C, D. Vitamin A plays a great role in the repairing gastrointestinal lining, and I'm talking about higher doses of vitamin A than you get from multivitamin. All these supplements and all these nutrients, they are usually in higher doses than the multivitamin contains. So that's why I rarely start anyone on multivitamin alone, and if someone complains about the number of supplements I start them on, depends on the severity of case, I say, well, let's do just multivitamin then, because I don't know, and just main supplements targeted to specific problems, because I understand it's hard to take, it's a lot of money and it's hard to take a lot of supplements, and also if you don't absorb the supplements you take, what good they are? No good. So vitamin C, I'm checking. Is huge. See, most of my patients are vitamin D deficient. I see them like 20 or less when I test vitamin D3, and that's not really good for you. It's not good for your immune health, not good for a lot of other issues. Vitamin K is huge, and now we have more research about vitamin K2. That's why lots of people who come to me from other practitioners, they are already on vitamin D3 and K2, and that's the new standard to prevent osteoporosis, brittle bones, and just improve the health of the blood vessels too. We all talk about cardiometabolic and all heart health and all that stuff, but that's huge for heart health too. Vitamin B12, well, a lot of people cannot absorb it from meat. If they eat meat, or if they're vegetarian, if they take supplements, in a little bit better absorption, but still, if your gastrointestinal mucosa is not working properly, you're not going to absorb supplements. So sometimes liquid B12 is great, depends on how bad this deficiency is. And then carnitine is one of the amino acids that help to restore gut lining. And then vitamin B6 is huge to decrease also the candida overgrowth if you have one, so because it helps with that, and it also helps with the elimination of extra estrogen. So if you are estrogen dominant, you may talk to your practitioner about adding vitamin B6. My preferred form is P5P, which is the active B6. And then how do we do this? Okay, this way. Folate, we're talking about methylfolate or any other natural form of folate. Choline is huge for healthy pregnancy. Okay, I don't know how to work with the mirror. Anyway, and the choline helps with a lot of things. Let me see one thing. Choline helps with a lot of things. For example, it helps to it helps the gallbladder to work properly. It helps to alleviate nausea, morning sickness in pregnant women. And you can actually Google the research on it. It's huge how choline helps. Choline helps to promote gallbladder health, healthy bile flow, and to decrease the nausea during the morning sickness. Magnesium, I basically tell everybody to take magnesium. I can test for it. The red blood cell magnesium could be a little bit more accurate than the serum magnesium, but if you have symptoms, it depends on the symptoms. I start almost everybody on magnesium because everybody is deficient and you cannot get it into your bloodstream. You cannot absorb it, especially if you have any symptoms of estrogen deficiency. That helps too. Lipoic acid helps too, and you can see why here. Glutathione, one has to be a little bit careful with, because if you have major toxicities such as mold toxicity or heavy metals toxicities, glutathione will dislodge those from your tissues and will put them in the bloodstream. So if you just take glutathione, you may talk to your provider about doing other support like binders, like activated charcoal 2-3 hours after you took glutathione, because just taking glutathione is not healthy. I mean, it may support you if you're deficient, but you have to be careful if you feel that it doesn't help you or you have side effects. It could be because you are pushing too many toxins out of your tissues too fast and you cannot eliminate them. So if you have constipation and you take glutathione, those toxins will accumulate in your body, right? They will get dislodged from your tissues, they will get into your poop, and you cannot poop it out. Then it will get those toxins will get all reabsorbed again. So, and then glutamine, L-glutamine is an amino acid. It's huge for the gut health. Other herbs I like is aloe vera, zinc carnitine. Zinc carnosine also helps a lot with the repair of gut lining, but of course it should be decided on case-by-case scenario, because it's very hard to take all these vitamins and it's kind of overwhelming. And if you have pill box is overflowing, and I have pretty big pill box, I'll show you at some point, it gets very discouraging that you kind of depend on those pills. So I start with 5 to 8 supplements in the beginning and see how you do, because sometimes you can get bigger bang for the buck per se, and then decide what's better and what's not working for you, and maybe something else needs to be added. So as we talked about nutrients for the gut health, I wanted to talk a little bit about testing. So for testing, I have three favorite tests that I use in my practice a lot, and I did a lot of studying and workshops to know how to interpret those tests, because what irritates me a lot is that some people come to me with functional testing that, for example, functional stool tests that cost them probably $300 to $400, and there's very minimal information that was pulled out from those tests, when in fact you can interpret them in so many ways and to such depths that it may help you to see the patient's case better. So if someone, for example, I had a patient with gut issues, and he's been treated for so long, like for 1 year, for leaky gut and gut repair and candida, anti-candida diet, but he's still having diarrhea. So I'm not sure what was, I have to go deeper why it didn't work and why it should have worked. You shouldn't have diarrhea for 1 year if you're going through the extensive and intensive gut treatment protocol. But anyway, I divert. So one of my favorite tests is the GI Facts by Genova, and you can see here okay. So sorry, I should probably pull out the requisition that Genova Diagnostics makes this GI stool specimen collection kit. So I like GI comprehensive profile, if you can see it here, GI Facts comprehensive profile. It is great because it gives me a lot of information on the inflammation, on gut health, if there are any pathogens, and they keep improving their technique again and again. Like every year they come out with something new. I personally benefited immensely from this test just to diagnose small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, because sometimes you don't have to do the breast test, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth breast test, because it's pain in the butt. To tell you the truth, I did it, I learned from it, but I don't recommend many of these tests to my patients unless they want to run through the insurance that test and they want to start taking rifaximin, which is not my favorite method of treating small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. So I meet the patients where they are. But so I like this test. The downfalls, the pros is that you can bill you if you go through the nurse practitioner or functional medical doctor or DOR or some kind of other professional, you can actually bill your insurance for this test, and it can cost as low as $170 something plus dollars. But the downfall of this test is that you don't know for sure how much it will cost you in the end. So you may end up paying $450 if your insurance is not that great. The other test is that I use a lot, and it has a little bit different information, but it's huge to rule out any pathogens, and they use different technique, or this similar technique but also different. So they're similar but different from GI Facts. So there's no perfect test. If I could do two tests, I would do both of them together. But GI Map by Diagnostic Solutions is great, and it also costs less. So if I choose this test, I'm more likely to retest the patient if the symptoms don't go away. So if I test, I do my treatment protocol, the symptoms don't get better, I may retest. But usually I don't choose to retest because I usually try to save my clients' monies. Anyway, and then the third test, I don't have it right on me here, but it's organic acid test, and it's great for kids too. I mean, the stool test, you can just scoop out the poop from your child's stool and send it to the lab. These all tests are at home tests, and the Great Plains Laboratory has an amazing test which I prefer over Genova organic acid test, urine test, because it has over 70 markers that I can look at and see what's going on not just in the gut, but in the whole body. So there are a lot of things that you can pull out from that test. It all depends on and also you can see if there is any mold colonization. So if I work with a patient who has been exposed to mold environments or things that there are mold issues, I do the organic acid test on them to see if there is any mold colonization, because mold can colonize your sinuses. So frequent sinus infections could be one of the things that people come to me for. And then lung infections, asthma, flare-ups of asthma frequently, or just frequent respiratory issues. And then mold can colonize gut. So aspergillus can actually successfully live in the gut, and also candida can, which is also fungus, can live in the gut and cause a lot of symptoms, including leaky gut. So what do we do for the supplements? So for the supplements, I mean, I mentioned some of them that you saw on that chart. It's not all-inclusive list. There are many more that can help. I try to pick a supplement that has a lot of things in them. So it's supplement. Yeah, sorry, I'm talking too much. I'm getting used to that. So I like. So you see, I opened it and I really love this. Ultra GI replenished by Metagenics. And the reason I like it, because they have all the amino acids broken down here in this shake, and you can do it at home or at work. I do not recommend doing, you can try if you're okay with shakes. I personally don't do well with shakes. I need something solid, like to munch on, even if it's just carrots or celery, because shakes make weird impact on me. I don't know what it is. I just get very hungry and angry in 1 hour. So I would, if it's you, I would combine shakes with some fiber, preferably chewable. So I like this because these have amino acid branching amino acids here, and you can start taking, you don't need a separate supplement. So what it means, it's that your body doesn't have to work hard on breaking down and absorption of these amino acids. So they already, proteins break down to amino acids, so you don't have to work for this. Oh, thanks, Caroline. Happy to see you here. Thanks for chiming in. But basically, trying to figure out all this Facebook Live. The other thing, it has a lot of vitamins, and just like your multivitamin, if you do 2 scoops, you can get enough vitamins that you would get in your multivitamins and more. But what they stand out for is their registered trademark Ultra GI Replenish, and it has HMO 2, I have to read it because I cannot pronounce that, HMOs as 2-fucosylactose prebiome 2FL, which are structurally similar to that found in human milk, selectively nourish beneficial bacteria to promote intestinal microbiome balance. So basically, some people who have FUT2 gene SNP, and that gene doesn't work properly, they may benefit from replenishing their body with this HMOs 2 fucosylactose that's made from the human milk, identical to human milk. It's not made from human milk, I'm sorry, but it's structurally similar to that's found in the human milk. And I'm still learning a lot about this. But also what I like about this shake, 2 scoops give you only 4 grams of sugar. And I hate those shakes that have so much sugar in them. And it doesn't matter what kind of sugar. It's like coconut, what do they say, coconut syrup sugar or whatever. Or I used to buy that a lot, thinking that it's better. It doesn't matter, it's still sugar. They use, I believe, they use monk fruit. So I hate stevia personally. I don't like stevia. I don't like how it tastes. Stevia can be fermented produced in so many ways. I really like the monk fruit, how it tastes. They add a little bit of it, so it's not super sweet. It gives you 150 calories, 5 grams of fat. You may add a little bit more fat if you feel like you didn't get enough with this dose of fat. It's not a weight loss shake, don't get me wrong, but I like also protein, which is 12 grams of protein. So it's not too much, not too little. It's just the right amount of protein for Goldilocks. So that's about it. But and also they have remember I talked about L-glutamine? They also add L-glutamine, special form of L-glutamine. So basically it's good to use it once a day and see if your gut health, or if you, for example, can substitute dinner with it if you're not very hungry or you don't get very hungry. It's a great dinner substitution. Just pay attention how you feel and see how it goes. But recently I have discovered Haliga's IBS. The research is still pending. They work on the research, but basically it's a higher dose of those 2-FOs, human natural oligosaccharide blend. So 2-fucosylactose, the same as identical, structural identical as to the human milk. This is a much higher dose, so you gotta be careful. Talk to your doctor if he thinks it's the right dose for you, but you have to dissolve 1 stick, and I usually recommend all gut healing foods to be done at night. So if you're going through some antimicrobial protocol, it's better to do it you do all the antimicrobial herbs during the day, with food, without food, whatever your practitioner told you to do, and then the gut healing foods you do at night. Why? Because they go through your digestive tract much longer, so you sleep, right? You don't push food into you to be digested and pushed out of you, so it stays in your gut longer and has more time to do its effects. The other thing I would actually look into probiotics, and probiotics don't colonize us, as we found out, but they work as policemen. They go and shoot bad guys, bad bacteria in your gut. So taking probiotics, and usually it's quite high doses if you are currently struggling with the gut issues, at night would be beneficial too. But if you have small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, you have to be careful. So do trial and error. If you feel more digestive upset, more heartburn, or more nausea and belching, maybe you have to decrease your dose of probiotics. What else? There are other, like I mentioned, there are other supplements that are not right now on me. Let me know if you actually want to hear more about supplements that I use for gut healing for myself and my clients. Also, let me know if you need more help, or if you have any questions, and if there's something you want to find out in my future live stream videos, because I'm planning to do it every week. Probably I'll have to figure out a better time, because most people probably are working right now just like I do. And let me know what the topics you would want me to cover. It was great seeing you, whoever was online. Thanks for chiming in, and see you next week. Bye.